Hello and welcome. In this video I'll be taking a look at one of the cities I've made. This was my submission to a competition run by City Planner Plays, which if you're watching City Skylines videos you've probably heard of him already. We've been given a one tile map. If I get out of this mode first and zoom out and enhance or dehance, something like that. So this is the map we've been given, the map tile itself. We're not allowed to expand outside it, but we can do what we want pretty much within the existing ground area, let's call it. So I'm going to be taking a look at what is good, what is bad about this city. I mean, even from this overview you can see I went for a grid-like pattern. It ends a bit abruptly, but we'll get into the details in a moment. It wasn't a part of the competition, but I decided to not use any mods. Generally speaking, I've played this game unmodded, so there's no mods whatsoever in this game. In this particular file itself, I can the achievement, for example, are not disabled. I do have all the DLC and content creator packs in this game. It doesn't mean I used all of them, but I do have them available. And just before we move on, the city I decided to call Tropico. Tropico you may recognise as the city building. Well, it's not a city building as such, is it? It's island management, let's call it that. So it's not quite a city builder, but it's not that distinct from a city builder either. So I've been playing that in the not too distant past, and it was still fresh on my mind. I was thinking, like, we've been given an island. You know, if we just have a look, we've been given an island. What could we do with it? And because we have an island, my first thought was Tropico. But I can't. It's not a copy of Tropico. It's inspired by Tropico. So I just went with Neo Tropico for New Tropico, in a sense. And I think that is it for the introductions. So let's move straight into the detail. Now, these two shipping ports were given to us with the map. So we have a passenger terminal and a cargo terminal. So they serve to provide the route for people to come into the city and also to get goods in and out of the city so it can function. So I left those pretty much as they were. I did rebuild this one just to get the road layout a little bit better for what I wanted. Moving on to the side here, we have what I call my sort of like service area. So this is where the water processing is done, and we also have some recycling, and the solar tower provides most of the power for the city. I can't remember what else I have here now. Did I have another source? Maybe I didn't. Okay, maybe it is the only source of power in the city. I've forgotten already. There's a couple of tourist features. Oh, I forgot to mention this when covering the city name. So in Neo Tropico, my first thought was, what would El Presidente do given an island? But in the more modern times. I haven't played that far in Tropico 6 yet, so I haven't really delved modern era in Tropico games, but I was thinking there were two backstories I could give this island. One is the more Tropico approach. It could be like a tax haven. Have a load of offices. You can imagine them processing things for another country, or kind of like tenuously related to another country, like existing tax havens operate in the current world. So they could generate a lot of wealth in that way. And the other one I could go for was tourism. And in the end, let's just do this. I'm jumping all over the place, I know. This just to show the balance of, what do you call these? Usage types. So we do have offices, but it's not a huge quantity. So I dropped the, what did I call it again? The tax haven backstory, because I felt there weren't really enough offices driving that. I couldn't really find any assets to really drive the imagination in that respect. So, you know, you could maybe still imagine there might be some of that going on, but it's not the primary focus. And that left only tourism as the main reason for this place to exist. You know, what would get people visiting the island if they weren't already living there? You know, why would they want to come? I only just discovered this recently, actually. I hadn't really consciously noticed it before. City attractiveness, 52%. Now, to make this place attractive to tourists, you have to provide tourist-friendly things. The trouble is, most of them are really expensive to run. One of the competition rules was the city has to work, so you have to balance the budget. And as you can see here, right this moment, it's slightly red. A moment ago, it was slightly green, and it's kind of balanced. If we just make a mental note here, it's just roughly 9.1 million. You know, we can see if it trends up or down significantly from that by the time I finish the video, if I remember to go back to it. Yep. So, because of the requirements to make the city function, the city has to work. You can't just put down every single, you know, you can't put down every one of these. I mean, one, it would be very difficult to fit everything, and two, it's really expensive to put all these down, to maintain them. And this is a small city. It's not huge. There just simply isn't the local population to allow all these things to be placed and keep above the waterline in the finances. So I had to be selective in which ones I used, and I think that also helped me focus a bit more, because one of the traps I find is, because you have everything available, you get a temptation to put everything down, and that kind of gets a bit excessive, repetitive, boring even, when you just like go, oh, you look at a city, you see everything is on the map, and you go like, oh, this person just put everything down because they could. So I wanted to give a little bit more thought behind it than that. If I succeeded or not, we'll come to that. On this section, what do they call these again? The monuments. I only picked one to build, which is the Eden project. So actually, we might as well go straight to that now. Now this I did pick primarily for one game mechanic, which is it. It has two functions in game. The Eden project raises land value in a city and reduces pollution. Land value I wasn't too bothered about. Reduced pollution I was very bothered about, because this is, again, it's not a big space. If you have polluting things going on, and I'm looking at these recycling points, these generate visible pollution, as do the water processing plants. I do like these land water processing plants because I think it is more representative of a modern world. I would hope most places now would not just discharge raw sewage straight into the water system. When the map was given, there was actually a sewage outflow here, and whoever the map creator is, we were given the map, so you know we did not have input on that part. They put some sort of water sink here, so that the sewage would pour into here, but then it would just magically disappear somewhere. So even though that was kind of hiding the problem, I didn't like it, so I went for the water treatment plants. But once again, the problem with the water treatment plants, just like the recycling centres, is they create ground pollution and have this nasty fog over them. The Eden project reduces it to practically zero. There might just be the slightest hint of pollution. So if we just go to the pollution display, yeah, you see the buildings are slightly brown, but that's it. I put a small cluster there, and there's one snuck in there. That's it. That's all the pollution sources I'm using at the moment. I did have also the incinerators as well for garbage disposal, but they gave more visible nasty lookingness. You know, in a modern world, again, I would like to think most recycling centres, if they are genuinely recycling centres, they don't really generate pollution. So that's one part of the game mechanic I don't like, I don't entirely agree with. Same with the water processing plants, they're self-contained, they don't leak pollution into the surrounding areas like they do in game. But I guess it's a game mechanic. So, they put it in game to give you something else to manage, but it's not really realistic, I don't think, in a modern world. Since we mentioned water treatment, here we are, the pipe layout. City Planner Plays is a potential judge, so it's a must-have, it's a must-do to run the pipes underneath the roads. So I did that. There's just no arguing this point, you have to do it. You're going to get marked down if you don't. You may notice though, I don't run the pipes down every single road. This is in parts just to help with the financial side. I mean, the pipes aren't that expensive, I guess. It's 8 cents per... I'm calling it cents. I don't know what that C double line currency is. I'm going to call it cents, just for the sake of it. Oh, they're all that thing. Well, it's 8 cents of whatever that currency is per cell. So if you put it down every single road, which might be more realistic, it will bump up the budget requirement slightly. So it's a kind of a compromise. If I have to put down a pipe, I put it underneath a road, but I don't put down a pipe under every single road, which might be more realistic. These pipes in game have quite a large area of effect. I mean, you see the circle on the screen right now. So this spacing happens to be about perfect. So there's only a slight overlap for the middle of the road. But in real life, of course, you'll have the main pipes running up and down the main road as well, before they get tapped off to each building. Okay, so back to the details. I can't even remember what I did now. I submitted it about, a week ago? No, not even a week ago, less than a week ago, and I've forgotten what I've done already. So you get to enjoy this as I do. Did I put a zone here? Yes, I did. And my game is glitched, so you can't see the name. I didn't name it. I just let the game pick the names. I didn't personally name them myself. I don't know if that might or might not get marked down in competition, but I didn't see it as very important. So for a lot of these areas, I use high-rise ban. If I just go back to the normal view and just give a more shallow angle, you see the city height is, although there are tower blocks, they're not really, really tall towers. In fact, some of these, maybe I prefer these to be even shorter still. I do not see an island like this being home to tons and tons of very tall tower blocks. Moderate height maybe, but not super tall. So this, maybe a little bit less than that. So this sort of height seems more reasonable, like single-digit number of floors. Double digits is probably getting a bit excessive. But, if the island can afford it, power to them. So this is mostly residential area surrounding the Eden project. So this is obviously going to be a focal point for the tourism. So I set this to be, what do they call it again? Entertainment. I always get tourism and entertainment mixed up, because to me, in my mind, the two words are somewhat similar. Oh, let's not move the camera over the theme park yet, we haven't got to there. So this is meant to be a leisure district. So I'm just letting the game pick the buildings themselves. So we have, clubs, food, arcade, stand-up comedy, bowling. So this is the entertainment area. But the entertainment area, it's a bit noisy. Where is it, that one? So, okay, it's very noisy. So, I did the old trick, having an office barrier to separate it from where the residential zones are. And also, it gives a bit of mixed use to the area. That may or may not help a bit as well. Same on the opposite side, Water towers, for whatever reason, I think they generate noise. Let me just double check on this one. Yep. I don't get the game mechanic. Do water towers really make noises in real life? I mean, I don't know. I never lived somewhere that had water towers. Where I live, generally speaking, actually I don't even know how it works, but we don't have water towers. I can say that with certainty. At least, if they are present, they're the exception rather than the rule. You just don't see them. Except for one that I just thought of. Because as soon as I say something, I'm thinking, but is there an exception? And anyway, that's distracting from the city. We don't really have water towers. I don't know how they work. I mean, if the water's pumped up, maybe the pump has a bit of noise. I don't know. But then it's gravity fed down again, I assume. But the water towers generate a bit of noise. So once again, I have another layer of offices blocking the residential zones. And actually there's even some, I've put some commercial just on the front as well. So just, again, I'll let the game choose. I didn't handpick them. My traditional trick here, back to the cargo port. There's almost always a queue of traffic. I made a one-way road in with a little bit of snaking. I don't know what you call this. Just so they have some queuing area. It's not too bad, as you can see. In fact, it's clocking up more on the exit. Okay. Because I don't play modded, I mean, it's one of the things that does annoy me a bit. This is a two-way road, so all the cars coming down here have to go on one side of this section. To be fair, no one should be using the other side anyway, because everyone is turning into this building or leaving this building. They should not be coming this way to go straight through. They have a much shorter path outside. There's no reason to do it. Did I decorate any more? I got a feeling I did. I tried to detail a little bit here, so I mean, a few shrubs and things, neither here nor there. A bit of fence just to separate this from, I think that is commercial, was it? Yes, it is. Some commercial. A park on the end. It's a little bit random, but people like parks. This is the park maintenance building. I think I just realised partway through the build I hadn't I haven't put one down yet. So there happened to be a space there, and I thought this could be like an extension. Oh, it wouldn't fit here either. I ran out of space in this area. So I thought, you know, this is kind of like an extension of the utility area, so stuck it in there. Having said that, these buildings on the side here, they are offices and a bit of commercial. I just thought it would just give a little bit of interest. It's a bit of land, it could be used for something. It's not the highest density, it's a little bit way off, but on the other hand, if you like a water view overlooking the passenger port, you know, maybe these offices are actually related to the running of the passenger port. You can imagine that, can't you? You know, they might be ticketing or some other like management services, scheduling, whatever you do. I don't know what you do in a passenger port, but whatever they do, they can do it in these offices. And also when the boats are coming in, look at them come in. I mean, there's so many boats, they have to phase through each other to get the capacity. Look at that, they're not even... Yeah. Again, this is the base game unmodded. I think they could have done a little bit better with this. I mean, the cargo... Okay, the cargo's behaving itself, but the passenger one... Certainly there's a lot of movement in and out. 183, don't know if that's good or bad. Yep. So we're nearly finished covering the front of the area now. So onto the, what did you call it? It's theme park. It's not a theme park. What do they call it again? My mind's gone blank. Amusement park. I think theme park might be a specific variation of an amusement park. So this is just all the amusement park assets. I've placed at least one of everything. There are some duplicates required in order to get the entertainment value up, so that this is a 5-star facility. And does it look great? It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't say, wow, this looks great, does it? I mean, from a practical level, if you're on, at ground level, you can get around easily. It's a simple grid-ish system, so you can move around easily. But from the air, it doesn't look anything particularly special. One detail I did try to do is, if we imagine, you wouldn't necessarily be coming down this road, but when I did build this, I was thinking, like, imagine someone driving down here. You could see the Ferris wheel, you can see the roller coaster, you see whatever the hell that is, you see the uppy downy thing, so you can see the big rides from here. Actually, I did check actually. How does it look from if you come round this corner, for example? Okay, it's still quite visible. The coaster is a little bit obscured by the swiggy thing, but it's still not bad, is it? And possibly if you're approaching, you might be approaching from this corner. Again, a Ferris wheel might be blocking the uppy downy thing, roller coaster. And it's a bit harder to see the ones at the back, but it's spread out. You can see the attractions from a bit of distance, and if you're a bit unsure if you wanted to go, hopefully that will tip you over and make you actually go in. So we've got a main entrance on this side, we've got a small entrance there and there as well. Don't know if it's really essential, but there was a space, so why not do it? I did the only conscious thing, well, I did consciously put the drop tower ride, that's its name, on here, because I thought, if it's on a corner, you can just look out, and on this side you got a lot of sea. You can overlook the whole park, and you can see the city. In the moment before you drop to your death, you have these great views. That was a plan anyway. Not that you would ever catch me on that. That's too far for me. This is probably about my limit on these rides. Oh, one more thing. I did take a little bit of inspiration for this location for the amusement park. In my past life, I have been to Santa Cruz in California on business, and one of the features of Santa Cruz, if you can call it that, is they have a place called the Boardwalk, and it is basically sort of like a mini amusement park right by the beach. So this is kind of, in a way, what I was going for. It's not quite exact, because I think it needs more like random small shops and maybe... Oh, I missed one. If I was really copying the Boardwalk, I should have put a cable car from one end to the other end. It would serve no practical purpose in game mechanics, but it's just a little ride. You can go over the park, the Boardwalk, and you can just go over everything and look down and just have a look at it. I forgot to do that. That was part of the plan. So, okay, I forgot to do that, my bad. And with hindsight, actually, that might have made it better. Instead of putting the adventure park there, if I put it, for example, in this block, and then move this block into here, then people might even possibly use the cable car to go from there to there, for example. I mean, it's not that big a distance, but at least it could serve a bit more purpose. So I think, okay, I forgot that one, that's my bad. So on the edge here, this is just nothing special. It's just residential and commercial offices. So once again, I got the offices against here, the Monorail Station. This one is the nearest to the amusement park, so that is one of the many travel options available. I say many. I'm just thinking maybe I'll come back to public transport, but suffice to say, these do generate quite a bit of noise, so I got the offices to block the worst of it from the residential buildings. And then we get into, let's cover this area next. So this is what I designated the shopping area. So if I click that, so we see a lot of high density commercial, we see some low density commercial on the edges, more high density commercial here, and I'll come to this area later. So I've tried to give it a bit of a theme. So on this end, so this is the furthest out part of the area, so you can imagine it's a bit further out, it's probably a little bit less desirable, bit lower density, bit lower value. So there's the fish market and the hypermarket. The hypermarket I think I put there more because of its height rather than it's necessarily a low value one. So just to keep the look a bit more consistent, because these buildings are a bit taller. So in the middle here we have the old Market Street. I love that. It looks kind of reminiscent of somewhere you might find in continental Europe. So to complement that a little bit, that's why this commercial block in the middle here, this is set to the European theme. So these buildings, especially the ones with the red roof, do match the, what do they call it, Old Market Street look quite well actually. If I was playing modded, or if I wanted to spend more time, I could have used the historical building option there, and then deleted these ones and hope they regrow into this style, and then I can just historical building all of these into this style, because I think if it was all the red roofs, that would look really nice. But I didn't want to spend quite that much time on it. And just so that it isn't just a random street, right at the end, at the end of the old area, what do you find? An old church, the cathedral. So I did try to do that. So that's where you end up when you go through the old streets. And which one is this? Department store? Did I do any more? Oh yes, there it is, a shopping centre. So these are slightly taller buildings. So like I said, I didn't want to put it on the other end, which is a bit more lower density. So this is more what you would expect in a city centre, a bit more higher density, a bit busier. You know, you can imagine just going down here, checking out the shops, whatever they have in there. Department store, shopping centre. These are just normal shops. And you get some older buildings like the church. I did debate actually in the city backstory, is this real or is this fake? Because I'm thinking, this sort of island, would it have that much influence from Europe? You can imagine this island is somewhere hot and exotic. Maybe European visitors dropped by and took over and influenced the locals in the distant past. Or the other possible backstory is they made so much money from tourism, they just decided to build a modern replica, which is also entirely possible as well. And I'll leave it to imagination which one of those may be the actual case. I don't think it matters too much each way. It's been built. So that covers the shopping area. Apart from this, I did do the modern city centre theme. So it is a bit of a mix of styles. This is just the generic game theme here. So we got the generic game theme, we got the European theme, and now we have the modern city centre theme. Bit of a mix, I guess. I guess it is. But I just love the styling of this as well. It's not the best light. Okay, it looks a bit better here, and we also got a wider road as well. Again, because I'm not using mods, it's a bit tricky trying to get the camera where you want it. I don't think I'm going to get much better than that. Is that going to help? Not really. Oops. Stop clicking on things. So, yeah, I like the modern city centre look as well. So again, in game logic, in game lore, my city lore, you could argue that, not necessarily all of this was built at the same time. Maybe this was one phase, then maybe this was redeveloped and was another phase. So you can, you know, people don't build the same thing over and over again over long periods of time, usually. Unless you're in some sort of historical preservation area. What you build 30 years ago is not what you build today. What you build today will be a different, you know, it might be a little bit different, it might be a lot different, it might go full circle and be inspired by historic styling. So if you imagine that it was built at different times, then, you know, it's reasonable for different areas to have slightly different stylings. So that's, you know, gives a bit of variety, and it still, you know, it still looks great together. I think it doesn't look like a very visually different, like you would go into the European area. Okay, I think that covers the main commercial zone. Over to this area. Now this area, my thought was this would be the city administration area. So I kind of drew a bit of inspiration from, again, some European cities. I'm just struggling to think which one specifically. I think it's a common theme in all of them that they tend to have like an open plaza. Now with the in-game assets there isn't like a massive plaza I could put down, so instead I put down 2 small plazas and just try to connect it up a bit better with extra paths. So this is the, like, you can imagine in historic times, you know, this might be the meeting point. We have the administrative buildings around Amsterdam Palace. I'm sure Amsterdam won't mind us borrowing that. But you can imagine that being some old important building. It might serve some sort of government function, or it might be used for some other offices in the modern era. We have the oppression office, but again that looks like another government building, and the light is horrible on that side, so let's go to this side. So we got a city hall, and on the fourth corner, fourth edge even, we have government offices. So that's the style I was going for. This is like the admin centre of the city, but it's also quite open, so you could have like mini events here possibly. I did put down a little a couple of kiosks there so people can buy things if they want to. We've got the buses coming through. Again, we'll look at the transport a bit later. So that was the concept for here, and we also have the monorail coming by just to help people get on and off. But that's only one part of it. What else is there? You can see I used the business park arch. You know, it gives quite a bold statement, so if you're approaching, actually maybe the visibility of it isn't so great, and I could have worked a little bit better on that by maybe even having an eye line, like clearing this. But the idea was this was the original business district that I had in mind when I was still going for the tax haven route. So you can still see some of the offices here, but basically to rebalance the city build I needed a lot of residential, and I had no choice but to curtail quite a bit of the office buildings. So that's why there's a lot of residential in this area now. I just needed the population for the city to function. So that meant I had to get rid of quite a bit of the offices in this area. So some of it remains, especially around the noisier areas where the monorail is. Here I was playing with the Green Cities eco building option, and I did strongly question if I wanted to keep that, because they are definitely too tall for the city. If you look at the whole city, I think okay, this building, whatever that is, that office building might be taller, but generally speaking, yeah, look at the heights of these. I did have the no high-rise policy applied on this. Does it show me anywhere here? I can click there, can't I, just to prove it. High-rise ban. but they're still going this tall. If I didn't have high-rise band, would they be even taller? I think, unless the assets just didn't have like a lower version. Although, having said that, these are lower, but that's because they're smaller squares. So, you know, maybe I could have forced more of these to spawn by adding intentional gaps here, so you can't spawn the bigger buildings. So if I was doing it again, maybe I could have done that. So that's certainly an area for improvement. And this bit I'm not proud of. I have to be honest, I'm not proud of this. So I thought, like, it's right at the edge of a city. We'll go down to like individual housing levels, and I think this is about the only place I did it actually. Those are the only individual houses. Everything else is high density residential, I think. Oh no, I'll tell a lie. There's some more housing there on that edge. But the height contrast between that tower block and this individual house, would you really see that level literally across the road? You would have a tower block and a single house. I'm not sure you would see that in real life. And also the game scaling does detract a bit here as well, because you look at this building, you know, you look at this house. It's the game scaling is a little bit off when you have them close together. You get away with it if you gradually merge them together. So again, this is going to be a weakness. If I get anywhere in competition at all, I'm sure I will get marked down for this, because even with the high-rise band, this is just too tall. You know, if it was shorter, it'd be a lot better. Moving up here, I got just a tiny bit of industry. I think that's forestry, isn't it? Is there a... There must be a district on here. Oh, it's way up there, because I could have done that. Because that... Oh, I think it did originally stretch up there, but I had to reclaim it for the zoo. So that's why I couldn't see it. So this is just a little splodge of forestry. So forestry... I nearly said forestry pollution then. Forestry industry I like because it doesn't do pollution, is what I was trying to say. At least not like ground pollution. It does do quite a bit of noise pollution, so once again I got a buffer of, in this case, commercial before the residential, and I just left that unused. I could have squeezed in a little bit more commercial if I wanted to, or done something else with it. I just totally missed it. And up here we have the zoo. We'll come back to that in a second. This area, what have we got in there? We got residential, so they overlook the zoo, and just a line of offices again buffering from this monorail line. Just checking actually, how noisy is the zoo? It isn't. The zoo doesn't generate noise. Which, if I zoom in, I don't know if that's getting picked up well, but I definitely hear lots of zoo noises. But I guess maybe they're just not significant compared to human noises. So the people living along here, you know, they have a good look up. They have a free view of the zoo, basically. If you like that sort of thing. Not necessarily everyone does. So the zoo, again, I took a similar approach to the amusement park. I literally just plonked down everything, I rearranged it a bit, tried to make it look a bit less rigid, a bit less gritty, like the city. So I think I did a bit better than the amusement park there. You know, there's some curves. I don't even know what this is, but it's there now. Oh, I think that's okay. That's why some of these assets have a path included. Some of them don't, like this one. So it gets a bit interesting trying to connect them all up. So, like I said, I did run out of space. This was the original space I allowed for it, and there was a road down here, and my get out of jail free card was I just made the road go underground instead, so the zoo could expand over, and also we have the sea life enclosure, which has to be by water, so I had to have water access anyway. And that is the zoo. On this side we're getting towards the airport, so we'll do that next, but just to this road as well, You know, this is the last pass before it turns off towards the airport area. I just wanted to put this house, the insect, amphibian and reptile house. You know, you can see it from the road. It just looks a bit more interesting, I think. Because most of the other assets, I think, are quite low, so you wouldn't be able to see it over the wall anyway. In the zoo, that is. But that's the only one that you really could. I did debate putting the trees on this side, but okay, it looks like I put it on that side as well. Just kept it self-contained in the zoo. Maybe I could have put some low plants on there as well, just to pretty it up a little bit more. And okay, onto the airport. So let's start with this. This might look like a 2-runway airport, but it is actually 2 airports. On the left here we have the passenger airport, and on the right we have the cargo airport. So, like mirroring the seaports on this side, we have passenger and cargo. We have a similar arrangement for air. So my justification or vision for this was that the island was growing. A seaport only gets you so far, but if you want to get the visitor numbers in, you're going to need an airport. And same with the goods as well. If you're going to be moving stuff in and out of the city, you're going to have to get the capacity up, and I don't think more seaports would have been the right answer for this. So having decided I wanted a cargo airport and a passenger airport, the question then was, where do I put it? Now, originally, you know, I thought I could put a passenger one there and a cargo one there, and then I thought, but I don't know, it didn't feel right to me, and it felt a bit boring as well, just like sticking one on each corner. I thought, like, that's not very imaginative. And then I noticed they look quite similar. They're not identical. You see a like wider gap there than there, for example. But then I thought, why not make it look like it's one integrated airport? So lots of airports will have multiple runways. Like another one of the airport assets, for example, you would have cross runways, so they go in different directions, and planes can take off or land on different runways depending on the wind direction. Things I learned from watching people play Flight Simulator. That's another story. But anyway, I thought, rather than go for that, this airport just has 2 parallel runways, which is also another thing. So Heathrow Airport, for example, my local international, if that's even... does that even make sense? My nearest major international airport is Heathrow Airport. And that's what they have. They have 2 parallel runways. And depending on the wind, they might take off east-west or west-east. That's it. Now, in this case, I did... Okay, you wouldn't normally have that. Did that one just land on that side and this one land on this side? That makes sense, actually, because they are essentially 180 degrees rotated from each other. And I have no idea which wind direction this island has. Does it actually show wind direction anywhere? I mean, if I had a wind turbine, that would probably show it. Now, the other thing about this airport, and trying to keep with realism, something I've historically been really bad at, is putting stuff too close to the airport. When you have planes coming in and out, you don't want anything in front of the runways, on either end of the runways. So I thought if I go diagonally on a corner of the island, they can take off and land over water. So I only have a small bit of land to keep clear. And when I say keep clear, that's not only keep clear of, like, put a massive tower block here, but it's also kept clear of trees. Trees on runways generally do not go well. So I had to manually delete every tree, you know, in this zone here. So these ones are left, these ones are left. I don't know if there are rules on trees, like, to the side of an airport, because I'm thinking if a plane is heading towards these trees, they have bigger problems to worry about than the trees. You know, if a plane is coming in here, they're doing something wrong. So you know, my thought was, okay, you just keep the bit in front and behind the trees clear. It's good. This little thing here is an earthquake sensor. I don't know which video I saw by which YouTuber, but I'm just using that as a power bridge. That is the single power connection. People who follow me on Twitter may have saw me put a tweet when I was building the city, just as a placeholder, I did run this across the runway. Suffice to say, in real life, you would not see this. This would not end well. So yeah, that would happen. You get very upset planes and you get very upset people without power. So it's a no-win situation having power lines across there. So the earthquake sensor saved today. I did debate if I could build something else to let the power creep around, but I didn't really find a good way to do it. Anyway, so we now have the passenger terminal on this side, and you might wonder, is there any reason I put the passenger terminal on this side? The main reason I thought was, people coming into the island, the first place they'll end up from the airport would be this building. So why not give this building some nice ocean views? I mean, I suppose even if I flipped them around, even if the building was here, they would have to look over the runway, but they still get the ocean view. But another reason, I suppose, is this will keep the industry traffic a little bit closer to the rest of the city, because the passenger traffic is less intense. You see, I've gone for the sort of like the side loop. I was going to put a bus route here, but I don't think I actually did. Okay, I didn't put the bus route in. That was one of the options I was going to do. I have got a taxi depot there, and I have got the taxi stands that never ever have taxis. I've never seen that being used in any game ever. But it looks like a little shelter for people to wait for things if they want to. I mean, it doesn't get used mechanically in game, but it just gives a little bit of visual interest. So slap bang next to the airport we have... It's a commercial building, which is why I put it there. It's not supposed to be a cinema. I don't imagine anyone going like, oh, shall we go to the cinema? Which one? The one by the airport? It's not going to happen, really, is it? So I could have demolished that and maybe let like a convenience store would make more sense there. So this is kind of like a little service area. So again, the taxi depot is there. This is the weather radar. It looks like it could be something that you might find at an airport. This might have some kind of sensor in it. I don't know. And a water tower, just to spread out the water towers. Originally, when I built this city, I put all the water towers in one basket, in one area. And again, in a real city, you might expect them to be a bit more distributed, so you don't have like a single point of failure. I even put a couple in this roundabout just to spread them out a bit. And again, this might have been me trying to optimize cost. So on that note, earlier I said it was, it's sometimes red, sometimes green, but it's slightly increased since I started this recording. Just 9177. It was 9095, I think, when I last looked. So it is ever so slightly creeping up. It's, I'm not clearly making bank with this city, but it's not losing money. So it is very slowly growing. If I spent more time on it, I could probably make it better, but I just thought for the competition, that was good enough. So, okay, another plane just landed. We got lots of people getting in their cars and driving out, but we also have lots of people moving out to the subway, the metro, which is good. I wish more of them did than the ones in the cars, but it is what it is. I even put bus lanes in, but I never put the bus route in. So, again, I might get marked down for that. It was something I wanted to do, but I just, for whatever reason, didn't do it at the time. So the subway, it's literally two stops. The airport and over here. To be honest, it doesn't get used as much as I hope it would. I was hoping it would be used more than it is. So, which one is it? Airport. Ooh! There's actually more than one vehicle worth of passengers at that node for once. I mean, if I was doing this now, maybe I could afford to do 2 vehicles. If it doesn't ruin my budget. So again, it's not the heaviest usage. So if I come out of that view, you might think, right, why did I terminate here? It's not actually that far from the airport, but like many airports, you know, they would have... Oh dear. My antelope. Anyone for roast antelope? How'd you like your antelope? Charred or... This is fine. Anyway, where was I? So, you know, I chose this as the termination point because this area here is... Okay, it's high density commercial, but this is set as tourism. So this is where the hotels are. Your Choice Hotel, Best Eastern, Hotel Beacon. So this area is where all the hotels are. So I thought it would just make it easier for airport travellers to go straight to the area, to this area. Well, if they're tourists at least, you know, if you're flying in on business, then you still have to get from here to another transport option. So maybe I could have done a little bit better on that. I did have... Okay, I suppose I'm just going on to the bus routes now because I've just gone that far. Let's change the cursor so it doesn't flash so much when I mouse over things. Should I? Let's continue. I've started, so I'll finish. So we got this area, which is the tourism area. I'll put a little bit of leisure here as well, just so that they have a little bit of fun on their doorstep. And I think that's just regular commercial there. So you see, I did try to put some bus routes in the area. So we got a line, we got two lines taking people down the west side of the city, let's call it. So one going about halfway through, one going pretty much to this end. I wanted to just to give these tourist attractions, you know, some service. We have a double loop in the middle of this area, the the government area. This purple line is covering between the what do they call it again? The tourism area and the passenger dock. So people at the passenger dock can go up there. I did originally have a monorail line going from here to here, but it just wasn't used. So I thought if it's not being used that much, I can downgrade it to a bus. And it doesn't seem to have hurt things at all. So this is quite another north-southy bus route, but a bit more centralised. On this area, okay, to be honest... Oh, I haven't covered this area yet, so we'll come back to it. But I wasn't exactly overflowing with imagination when I did this. I just did a simple double loop again here, just in both directions, to just allow people to move around this area in general. And there's a single smaller vertical loop, single direction only, that covers the commercial area to straight up through the middle of this area. So if people on this bigger loop wanted to, they can connect close to, you know, it's just, you have to change stops, just walk around the corner. So it gives them, it still gives them some options to move around, even if it's not necessarily ideal. With a bit more time, maybe I could plan out a more intricate route to cover in more areas. Down here with the Eden project, again, it covers, you know, the residential zones, the entertainment and amusement park, going into the one side of the commercial area as well. So that sort of covers that. But you see, you know, there's areas here you could argue there's no direct transport. Like if you want to go to this shop, you know, that is quite far from the nearest bus stop. Might make it a bit less desirable, but not everywhere is going to be great, is it? Right, so I didn't quite finish the airport before I got distracted. So on this side we got the cargo airport. I put the fire helicopter on this side as well because I thought, you know, it's still kind of like an airporty thing, isn't it? Helicopters, it's kind of airporty, so we can have that there. And we have the what do we call this? Well, let's just start with what we have there. We have the loopy bit, the snaky bit. Once again, just to allow a bit of queuing to get to the cargo terminal, same as on the boat cargo port. I wanted, because this is a cargo port, I thought it would look a bit more industrial-ish. I mean, not like manufacturing industrial, but just like storage industrial. If I put a few warehouses in the area. So these are just warehouses. They store, what did I choose? Farming, forestry, and general commercial goods. So those are the only three types of material I'm operating in this city anyway. And the firehouse, fire station. Just to give some coverage, you would think that an airport area would probably have its own services on hand just in case of an emergency. So I wanted to put one quite close. I hadn't mentioned it earlier, but you might have noticed these like dirt tracks on the side. This is kind of, you can imagine those as like service routes. No one's going to use them, or correction, no one should be using them. Station wagon, Cedric Mason. Okay, he works at a taxi depot, so he's using this as like a back route home. You can see it's really close to the end of the runway. You would not be using this normally. If I could control traffic flow, I could put a gate on it or something. Again, taxi depot. This is just a taxi depot. Yep, the taxi depot people are just being cheeky and using this as a... Yep, they're all the taxi depot people are going this way home rather than taking the proper route out. Just to check the route on the other side, no one is using that. No one should be using it, but just making sure no one's using it. So you can imagine, there would be some sort of like perimeter road around an airport just to allow access and to check, they can just check things, or if anything ever happened to this tunnel, they would have an emergency way out as well. We wouldn't cut off this area from road access. So, bit of redundancy there, put a fence in just to segregate this area from the runway area a bit. Okay, I didn't do it on this side. Okay. So, I don't know my reasoning for that. Maybe I just didn't think of it at the time. And these are the fire watchtowers. So, I think I put them there for two reasons. One, because it does prevent fires in the area and enables the fire helicopters to go out. But it also, it looks like it could be there this could be like a Coast Guard as well if people want to play on a beach, or this one. It overlooks the airport, so it kind of doubles as a secondary tower. I don't know why you would use that instead of that, but there could be reasons that people might want to use a tower, if not as a fire watch tower. Okay, so you've left the airport, you decided you're going to drive and you're not taking the metro. You go through the tunnel, you come out of the tunnel, and what do you see? Okay, I'll try to I'll use the trees in the background. In the middle, to the left, we have a farm. So my thinking when I set up this farm is there's a single house here. So, this is where the farmer lives, you could argue. And the tree is kind of trying to define the grounds. I kind of wanted to, but I didn't really find any assets I could try putting down to just make this look a bit more like this is a house area as opposed to this is a farm area. So this is just the generic zone farm industry. It's not the industry farming. So, my vision was, you could argue, in ancient times, in this island, people would have to farm for the food. They couldn't fly everything in at the time. But as needs changed, farming declined, and this is kind of like the last farm. It's preserved, it's saved, it's still active, but it's not like the sole food source for the island. And it just happens to be next to the airport. That's it, really. Oh, I put it on pause earlier, didn't I? Let's make it a bit more interesting. See things moving around. So originally, you can imagine there might have been... I did originally have a road connection there, but I just thought it made more sense to take it off this roundabout. Because it did put quite a lot of traffic on this road as well. A little park there just I just happen to have one spare, I think, after moving some other things around. So that wasn't anything in particular. Now this area here, what was my thinking? I think this is kind of mostly a residential area again. So we have high density residential on the edge, a blob of high density residential here, flanked by low density commercial and low density housing on the far edge. So once again, I'm trying to give that sort of like fading out feeling. So you wouldn't just go from like, okay, I haven't covered the tower yet, we'll come back to that in a bit. You wouldn't go from like a tall tower to like nothing. So I want to do is like gradually go down to this undeveloped area here. I'll come back to that later. So I don't really think there's a huge amount for me to say about this area. So I tried to build it so that, you know, you have the central area which has all the amenities. Let's put it that way. So you got the school there, you got a university there, you got, I don't know what these are, sports hall, gymnasium, pool, police, random, oh that's the commercial, fire station, some more, you know, basketball, tennis, sporty stuff. So, you know, if you wanted a bit of entertainment, you know, this is the entertainment provided for this area. We have the low density housing, we have high density housing. I'm not too upset with high density on the edge because you could argue that the ones overlooking the water might be more desirable anyway. Maybe I could have put a bit more stuff on the beach just to spice it up a bit, but I just left it undeveloped, and this is really annoying me. I did not notice that. I would have fixed it had I noticed it, but that is ugly. That is ugly. It is what it is now. So yep. So once again, not and a hospital. So once again, nothing of note there, but it is a bit of a boring grid pattern, I have to admit. But you know, what would you do? Would you do something like this in a real city? You know, have like kind of like a central area providing the facilities. Is there a high school? Oh, that is the high school. So somewhere around here must be the elementary school. There it is. So once again, you know, central services. You have all the housing around it, so they have easy access to it. And if you want to go, you know, there's some small local shops here. What did I do? So there's a couple around more this side. I didn't put anything over here, so maybe, you know, as a little bit of convenience for the people. Like if you lived in this house there, you got quite a trek to get. Like if you need a bit of milk, you're going to walk, you know, several blocks over just to get a bit of milk. So maybe I should have put a, you know, just a small bit of commercial in here as well. Maybe unconvert some of these from commercial and turn them into residential as well. I think it just, to me, it didn't feel right to put residential in the middle of all this stuff. It just felt more intuitive to make it commercial instead. What else have we got? We have a large area here and the start of a nature reserve. That's the word I was looking for. So once again, back to the tourism theme. I thought, okay, let's build a little reserve here. So these rocks came with the in-game asset. Again, I put another watch. I think that was a fire watchtower. There's actually a fire watchtower, but you could also use your imagination. It could be something for the tourists as well. You know, you can climb up it for the views. There is actually an in-game asset for that. I think I put one down. There it is. It's a lot smaller, isn't it? So that's the lookout tower asset for the park. Now that is what I call a tower. If you want to look out, you know, you can see from miles out to sea. And if you look back, you see the city you left behind, even if it's not really that far. So a couple of curvy paths, a few tents here and there, a few more tents there and here. I thought this is just a bit too flat, a bit too boring. So for the first time, I think I tried to do something with the rock assets, and it was a bit difficult. Again, because I'm vanilla, there's not that much variability, and it looks a bit samey if you put the same things down over and over again. So I tried to create what I thought was like, this is like a little ridge of rock coming up here, and we have a little campsite next to it as a little feature. I tried to make it fade out a bit better than the pieces can. I mean, you can see this piece and this piece are different colours, and then nothing matches anything else, but again, that's just what I could do with the available assets. Before I go any further, I'm not against modding, but it's just one of those rabbit holes. Once you put one mod in, you're going to put 10 mods in, you're going to put 1,000 assets in, and you're wondering why your computer's dying. So keep it simple. Even the in-game assets, I do not think I have made the most of them. I do watch other creators like Overcharged Egg, and what they do with vanilla assets is another level for me. And the devil's in the detail, and I think that is an area I still need to improve on. So this is just a small nature reserve. That's the word I'm looking for. I didn't quite get it to 5 stars. It needs a lot more entertainment, which means I just need to duplicate and expand, and I just wasn't in the mood to copy paste the same things over and over again. So I thought, okay, not everything has to be 5 stars. You can remain a 4-star park. This is as big as I want it. And you might think then, okay, why is this area unused? Did I just run out of time? Could I not be bothered? I actually did have city in this area. I demolished it because I thought whenever I do a build, my tendency, which I'm trying to get away from, is density and coverage. If there is a space, I want to put something in it. It's something I need to break the habit of. There is no room to breathe here. There is not a space that is unused until you get to the edges. So, and there's little bits like this where you can't because of the way the zoning system works, it's not easy to put things there. I think I could put there's one square there I could put something on, but it's just okay, even I'm not that desperate to fill in the one squares, because it's the assets they put in there in game just look really tiny compared to everything else, and it looks a bit out of place. So in general, yeah, I do pack things in, and there's very little unzoned or unfilled space inside the built area. And grids, again, is another trap. They kind of enable you to fill in more densely, so it makes it intuitive to pack things in with a grid. But again, it's not really giving space to breathe. In most places, you would have lots of little gaps. At least in the UK, the city planning does not build that densely. If you have a main road, quite often you would have some gaps around it. If it's not a really urban main road anyway, if it's a semi-urban one, it would have gaps around it to give a bit of buffering from whatever else is nearby. And in housing areas, there are they're not formal parks by any means, but you get green patches, which is owned by the local council. And they will, they'll mow it, they'll maintain it. It's quite low cost, and it just gives a bit of room to breathe. If you put a house on every single bit of land, you end up with a really dense, claustrophobic, maybe even type area. I mean, it might be appropriate in a high value, high density city, but it isn't appropriate everywhere all the time. So I thought, okay, whoever's running this island, they're going okay, we want to have some land preserved, so we're just going to draw a line in the sand or in the grass. You shall not pass. So I even put a little fence there. So this area is out of bounds from growth and expansion. With hindsight, maybe I should have put some more stuff in there just to make it more interesting, because at the moment that is just one really big, boring patch of land. There's nothing there. You know, again, if I had thought of it at the time, I don't know why I didn't think of it at the time. You know, even if where are they? Like I could just okay, I would have to do a better job than just like what I'm doing now. But you know, even that would just like give it a bit more interest. You know, it doesn't have to be trees, but just to make it look a bit more overgrown, a bit more I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. A bit more natural. I mean, you'd have to put so much more of this down to cover it, you know. Make this look really wild and untouched. That's what I should have done. Yeah, I would have to do like maybe 10 times more than that just to get this really covered and mixed. And, you know, rotate it around a bit. One thing I don't like about a vanilla game is if you look at these two, they're exactly the same orientation, I think. I think there's a mod that spins things around. Like, are these two identical? If not, they are very similar anyway. So I think there are mods that spins the asset around so they look much more random if they're not in exactly the same orientation. So that's, you know, something I probably should have done as well, just to make it look a bit nice, a bit more wild. That's the word I'm looking for. And make sure I have a load of fire watchtowers around. It's just going to burn. Is there anything else to cover? Oh yes, and last but not least, the central feature, what is it called again? The observation tower. I just wanted that as kind of like a centerpiece. So this could be like the crown of the tourism industry. You know, if people want to visit it, they can go up here, and from the top, you know, you have, you know, quite clear views of the whole city actually. You know, it's way taller than everything else. It stands out. It's a landmark. People will see it. It will be, you know, what the place is known for, or one of the things it will be known for. So I thought to give it its like a bit of separation, I've created this roundabout, and it's slap bang in the middle of it. Once again, you could argue maybe I should have put a bit more transportation closer to it. These stops aren't too far, but they're not exactly on its doorstep either. Did I put a bus route there? Yes, I did. There is a bus stop there and a bus stop there. It's on the same line though, so I don't know which one people would actually take. But you know, there are options. I mean, these aren't really that much further, are they? It's like one extra block if you want to take the monorail. The monorail line is a single line. It just goes east-west, so it just gives a bit of higher volume transportation across the city. Because otherwise, there's only the roads. The buses are more localized. So I'm just trying to think, you know, is there anything else I could have added? One thing I did not want to add, I did put the subway from the airport to the city, but I did not want to have a subway network. I just felt it was excessive for a place of this size. Population 25,000. Subways are not cheap. Would 25,000 people be enough to justify a subway station? A subway system even. I'm not convinced. I think you would have to have a much bigger city to start properly justifying a subway system. What else could I have done? Maybe I could have put trams in, but it kind of duplicates a bit with the bus system because they're both surface transport. I can't put one down because I haven't made any allowance for it. I probably neglect trams in this game. I don't know how much capacity they have, if it is much better than buses. I mean, it can't be worse than buses because buses are tiny. But if trams have much more capacity, maybe it could be like an upgrade on the busier routes, because I do know that some of these routes, when you make a route like quite long and it goes from lots of varied functions, let's say, you can get one or two stops that have like an astronomical number of people waiting at it, and it's very difficult to fulfill that just with a bus route. So maybe I could have added tram to improve this. So I think that about covers the city. I don't think I've missed out anything, have I? Maybe if I just quickly go over the overlays. So the power, I've kind of used the power budget just to make sure it's got a bit of headroom. The power consumption I did notice of the city does go up quite a lot when the temperature drops to about 15 or so. So that's why there's a bit of surplus right now. It will drop when it gets colder. So I did want to keep it in the green all the time. So that is, I did balance it to just keep the income going. Water, same sort of thing going on. I managed to turn off one of the treatment plants because it wasn't necessary once I took out the city from this area. So there's enough water, and this doesn't vary much, so that's nice and safe. Garbage collection, similar again. I've got, a big cluster there, a small cluster there, and a single one there to cover the city. This one I think I squeezed in just because I don't know if it's traffic or something, but it can be a bit hard if you concentrate it too much in one area. It's hard for them to reach the far end. So even having a single one there does help the coverage a bit. Education, enough elementary, enough high school, enough university, and there is no library whatsoever in the city. I would probably use the library a bit more if the game simulation just made it a bit more popular. I don't know if it is realistic or not, real world, because I think the last time I went in the library was... I can't remember. Too long ago. Okay, what have we got here? Happiness, residential 91, commercial 73, office and industry 95 each. I'm not entirely sure what makes commercial happy, but whatever it is, I'm not giving it to them. I believe there are mods that will show you and give you a breakdown of why they're unhappy, but I do not have that. If I had to guess, it might be as simple as noise, because commercial zones I think are mildly noise sensitive, and they're noise self-generating, so that never helps. So that probably wouldn't help. Maybe I haven't quite got the balance quite right, and maybe there's a slight surplus relative to the number of people using the commercial services. I don't know, but it's not bad overall. Healthcare, we have some reasonable facilities. Maybe I could do with a little bit better coverage on this corner here, but that's... Oh, actually... Yeah, it's a bit weak here as well, so maybe I could sprinkle some smaller facilities around just to ensure top-notch coverage, but it's not lacking. Death care, again, I just sprinkled some crematoriums around. In the game world, it does seem to depend more on the number of vehicles than their actual processing capacity itself. I've never had a crematorium be full of people. The bigger problem usually is they just can't get to the dead people fast enough. Childcare and elder care I did not put in the city at all by the looks of it. But it's interesting, there's some greenery here. I wonder if that's because I put the the community pool and whatever it's called in the area. Maybe they're providing some extra benefit. The community pool and sports hall and gymnasium, maybe they give some passive benefit there. I don't know if that's the reason or not. Maybe this is because of the Eden project. I don't know, but that's just my guess. Don't care. Traffic, it's okay. 84%. It could be better. There's lots of red here, but there's not usually any major backlog. So even though that's showing red, there's hardly anything there, is there? There's a bit of queuing around this junction, but this is going to the cargo area, so this is very difficult to manage. This comes in bursts, but it's okay right now. Pollution, once again, there shouldn't be any thanks to the Eden project. There's only the slightest hint of them from the recycling centres, which I don't feel that's really realistic. Noise, there is certainly a fair bit of noise. Average noise pollution, 44%. There is a lot of noise, but there is also a lot of industrial and high-density commercial buildings and the airport. That all combined, everything, and the farms, That's a lot of noise, isn't it? Even the road to the nature reserve is... There's only like 4 cars on it. Why is that even glowing at all? Fire coverage should be fine, as is always the way in this game. The industry areas do seem to drop their coverage a bit more rapidly, let's say. Crime, 6%. Could it be better? Maybe, but it could be worse. Tons of jail capacity. Well, it's about half full. Yep, it's okay. Transport we covered already. Population, if anyone cares about the mix of population there. Outside connection, we're importing a lot of goods. We're exporting agricultural products, so that will be from the farm, I guess. The green one is forestry, which is from this other industrial zone, and everything else is minor in comparison. Land value is sky high, but in part I think that's due to the Eden project, the side effect of it. Once again, I didn't really need or want that, but I did want the Eden project for the pollution side. The industry side, I'm only doing farming and forestry because they are non-consuming, in that you will always be able to farm there, you will always have a forest there. I did not touch the oil, I did not touch the ore, because they are consumable. They will disappear with time, unless I turn on the unlimited ore option, which is in the vanilla game, to be fair, but it stops the achievement. It turns off the achievement eligibility. So again, once again, this map is still available for achievements. The districts. So this isn't so much to name the areas as much as to control the functions. So the ones with the circle with a line through it, all those are high-rise ban. That is entertainment, that is tourism, that is green, that is another green. I've got some farm there. So it's more functional rather than actual city districts. So again, I might lose a point for that. You know, a city might have a bit more designation in the zones. Like, I mean, I could simply expand these even. Like, I would have to have another commercial zone wrapping around the new old town, I call it, and shop. And just expand these a bit, fill in the gaps, if I really wanted to. It's not really necessary. Leisure. So we got the 3 different types of parks. No. Yes. Okay, I'd never built a city park, so that is one park area. Once again, the area for this build wasn't massive, so you can't have everything. And on this occasion, I did not use the city park. The other park assets, no libraries, no sports arenas. Terrain height, the map as it was given was practically flat, and I did not choose to modify that at all. With hindsight, I think it would have been nice to have some level going on, because I think it would be, unless it was an artificial island, unless someone literally just built this in the water, which is what it looks like, there will be, even if it's a little bit, there would be some terrain height variation, which I think would have given it much more interest. There's no heating on this island, since it's I don't know if it's tropical or not, but it's certainly not an ice map. I do have a road maintenance depot, just a single one. It's not a big island. It looks like they're doing a good job covering everything. No emergency services. This is for the, what's it called again? The natural disasters pack. So I've got it disabled in the options. I'm just not using it. Same with the radio coverage. No destruction, that's good. Disaster detection. Oh, the earthquake sensor and the weather sensor are counted as disaster detection. I placed them, well, the earthquake sensor, like I said, was to bridge the power, and the other one was just for its looks. So this is not intentional. It's not required anyway. We don't need to look at that one. Tourism. So there's a good scattering of this colour. What, I don't know what you would call that colour. This colour buildings are the tourist places. This is just the commercial zones. Exchange student bonus 0. Tourist wealth half medium, about a third high, and the remainder low wealth. Not bad. Exchange students and tourists, only tourists, no exchange students at all. That might require a campus, which I did not use on this build. Attractiveness, so the greener it is, I mean, there's quite a few green bits. Not a lot to say about that really. Tours, I did not set up any tours. I forgot that was even a feature. Okay. So that may or may not have, just improved things a little bit as well. There's a few, like this area especially, the government area, there's a cluster of interesting buildings there. Over this side we have a cluster of buildings as well. So these maybe could have done with like a walking tour, or maybe even combine them into one long one, sort of like just meander through all this. So again, another missed opportunity there. I could have done something with that. Park maintenance. Wait a second, highway maintenance. Oh, okay, they're right next door to each other. I thought it's the same building there. I thought, no, they're not the same building. So same difference, park maintenance, park maintenance. Looks like we got coverage, that's fine. Industry areas, I'm not using any. Oh, unless you count fish. But that came from a different expansion, so it's not counted. I am doing fishing. There's just a single fishing route there and then a couple of farms, just to give a little bit of local income, It's not a major source of revenue for the island. And last but not least, post offices. I did, as you see here, I just plonked a few down. It seems to give enough coverage. It's questionable if they're really needed, but I do like them. Like a real city would have post offices. Well, I don't know about other countries, but in the UK, you'll have post offices everywhere. Like, even some small shops might have a post office inside them. Within, let's say, I'm just trying to think, let's say 20 minutes from my house. I'm just thinking how many post offices I can walk to, not drive. How many post offices can I walk to from my house? I can think of 3 off the top of my head within 20 minutes walk. Probably less than that, actually. So yeah, post offices are everywhere. Main post offices are less common, but like sub post offices are very common. And I think that is it. So that is my submission to the City Planner Plays this tile build competition. The entry has been submitted a while ago. I don't know the results yet. I don't know what the timescale is for results. I don't know how many results were submitted. It could take a bit of time for the judging to even shortlist it. So if you were to look at the city from a distance like this, you might think it's boring. It's a grid and there's an empty bit and then there's an airport on one side. So from a distance, I'm not going to win any points, I don't think, on this view. But I hope that, if they spend the time and look at the details, I hope they appreciate what I've done. Is there room for improvement? For sure. I do not claim this is perfect in any way. I do not claim this is, the best ever. But I hope they like what I've done with the detailing, if it ever gets that far. And even if not, at least I can say I tried. If I spent more time on it, could it be better? Yes, but the thing is, the day after the competition closed, I had a different idea, and I actually started building it. I won't cover it in this video, but the short version is I tried to make a Bond villain volcano in the middle, and then build around the outsides of it. And I think, that had a very different aesthetic. So from a distance, that looked a lot more visually impactful. The detailing, I just played with just to see how it functioned. I didn't get that deep into it. But suffice to say, there's, a million different ways, probably more than a million different ways, a practically infinite number of ways you could build, even on this one tile. I did see some screenshots from other people's cities, and again, at the, this is the 1,000-foot view. They looked a lot better than this. But as someone in the Discord did point out, aesthetics are only one of the many judging criterias. So how does the city function, the road layout, transportation? There's all sorts of other little things like that will be marked. So, I wouldn't say my chances are 0, even if I do not necessarily rate my chances as being brilliant. Only time will tell. So that is it. Let me know what you think of my city. I'll welcome any comments. Thanks for watching, and see you another time.